It appears that Roy's having a bit of problem with a small problem with his connection here. So please, if we could bear with him for a few moments, and he'll be back with us very shortly. It's good to see so many of you here and from such a variety of countries. Peru alongside Poland, Croatia alongside Iran and Ukraine, and Turin, Monaco and Turin. You could actually go and see Roy yourself because he lives in Turin and I don't live too far myself actually. We have Argentina alongside Mexico, Poland, Slovenia, brilliant. Uzbekistan, fantastic. So Roy, it looks like Roy is back in the room now. Let's have a look if we can get his microphone and his camera feed coming through. Brilliant.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Hello.
Working now.
Fantastic.
Good stuff. Crack on.
Okay. So good afternoon, everybody. Sorry about that brief technical problem. Hopefully that has now been resolved. So this is just one of the pitfalls I think we face in this new era of online teaching, which has become, I guess, a part of our daily routines in recent months. So I think a lot of us have got to grips with most of the technical aspects of teaching online, but I think a problem that many teachers still have is motivating their students in an online environment. It's very different from the physical classroom, obviously. So this is the sort of thing that we're going to be discussing today. Tools and resources, ideas to get our students motivated and getting the most out of our online course. So it's great to see so many people here today from all over the world. Italy, Ukraine, Istanbul. Wow, I saw Brazil previously as well. So this is fantastic. Croatia. So before we begin, I would just like to say a few words about myself. My name is Roy Bennett. I'm originally from a city in the northeast of England called Sunderland, which is on the northeast coast, right on the North Sea. We have lovely, lovely picturesque beaches, but I would not recommend swimming at any time of the year. For most of my adult life, however, I have been living in Turin, Torino, in Italy. And I've been working for Pearson now since 2012. I'm an educational consultant, and I'm also a teacher training coordinator for ELT in Pearson, Italia. So I'm very interested in teacher development, continuing professional development. So I'm just looking at all of the hellos coming in. Fantastic. Okay, so let us begin. Today we're going to have a few questions for you. And the first question is, what has been the most difficult thing about teaching online? Could you please write your answers in the chat box? Keeping students engaged, getting the students to log in, technical problems, as I saw before, keeping attention alive, no emotions visible, student motivation. So there's a lot about motivation coming into the chat. The technical problems, obviously, dealing with students' connectivity, checking assignments, but getting them up in the morning. Okay, well, we don't have a solution for getting them up in the morning, but hopefully we can deal with a few of these issues that you're talking about now. Students cheating, yeah, that is a very big issue, because if we're giving students tests and activities to do and we can't monitor them physically, then obviously they can consult dictionaries, they can send messages to their friends. This can be very, very difficult. So thank you very much for your input there. So we've established some issues, and in today's session, I'm going to be basically talking about two different things. The Pearson English Portal, which is what we'll be examining in depth today. And most importantly, I think, how to use the various tools and resources that it provides effectively to create engaging lessons and hopefully improve your learning outcomes with your students. Okay? So I think the first question to answer is, what is the Pearson English Portal? I'm sure quite a lot of you are already familiar with it. If you're not, I like to think of it as a one-stop shop. So basically, a place where I can find all of the resources for my course. So all of the learning tools, etc., etc. The portal has a lot of features. It's very easy for teachers and students to use. It encourages engagement because there are so many different resources to use. We have video, audio, we have interactive activities, there's gamification. So we can vary our activities. And that leads to, I think, an enhanced experience for learners. And it can also, as a result of this, help to improve learning outcomes as well. So I think if students are engaged, they're more likely to learn or want to learn. So that's what it is. What does it provide? Well, it provides a variety of things, as I said. The portal has a very good presentation tool. It provides a lot of extra resources, which vary somewhat depending on the course that you're using. There's the possibility to form virtual classes and assign homework and activities to your students. We've also incorporated a new test generator, which we'll be looking at in a moment, which is a very good solution if we're trying to prevent our students from cheating or copying online. And we've also introduced the possibility to plan your Zoom lessons directly from the portal. So you don't have to log into different platforms simultaneously. So this is very useful. We'll be looking at all of these various features during the course of today's session. I just see no integration with Google Meet. Not at the moment, but you can still share your screen if you're using the portal. So you can't actually program or schedule your lessons yet, but we'll see in the future. So we don't really have enough time to look at everything in depth. So we're going to try and look at some of the key benefits, the key features. The first thing to do is to log into the platform. Now, I'm not suggesting that you do this now, but it's a very easy address, english.com/portal. Okay. And once you've gone there, the first thing to do, obviously, is to register or to sign in. Okay, I'm going to assume that you have an account. If you don't, you can set one up quite easily. But once you log in, the first thing you see is the welcome message, which is very nice. Hi, Roy, what would you like to do today? That's very nice to see, very personal. I like that. So on my dashboard, this is the dashboard, I have all of my products. In this case, you can see Gold Experience, and we'll be looking at Gold Experience today. But of course, you could be using a different book. You could be using Business Partner. You could be using Team Together. You could be using Roadmap. Okay, depending on what book you're using with your students, you will see it on the portal. I can also see my classes, my virtual classes, the links to the virtual classes, and a link to where I can schedule my courses. We'll be looking at that in a moment. Yes, this is called the Pearson English Portal. So I've scrolled down my page, and today we're going to have a look at Gold Experience B1. Okay, just to give you an example of what we can do in the platform. So I click on the cover of the book, and this will open my presentation tool, which is what we're going to take a closer look at now. Okay, so when I click on the cover of my book, the first thing I see is a list of the units, or different tiles or buckets, we call them. And if I click on one of these tiles, it will take me to that particular unit. Okay. If I click on a unit, I can then select a particular lesson, which I've done here. And the first thing I see when I open my lesson is the page view. So in other words, the same view that your students will see in the paper version of the book. I'll just stop for a second because I've noticed that a few people are writing in the chat, is the portal free? For teachers, yes. If your students have purchased a student book, your local representative will give you the access to the resources for the teachers. So yes, for the teacher, the portal is free. So I hope that answers your question. Even to freelance teachers, I think you would have to ask your local representative. Certainly in Italy, where I'm based, we can provide freelance teachers with access as long as their students are using a Pearson book. So I would advise you to contact your local Pearson representative, okay, depending on what country you're based in. Okay, so the presentation tool also allows us to zoom in on particular activities, okay? So the page view is quite difficult to see. If I want to focus on one particular activity, I can click on that activity and I will get an exploded view, if you like, of that particular activity. Now, this is very useful for focusing the students, focusing their attention on this particular activity or exercise. You also have access to a toolbar, which you can see highlighted on the left, and this has a few features which I would like to discuss with you today. Now, the toolbar contains quite a few different things, which we'll be looking at some of them now. We have widgets, we have teaching tools. You can toggle between the page view and the activity view, as I already explained. You have your teaching notes. So if you need to consult the teaching notes for a particular page, a particular activity, you can do that from within the portal. This can be very useful when you're planning your lesson. You have a whiteboard as well, so you can toggle between the presentation tool and a whiteboard, so you can write things on the board or draw things. And you can also toggle between your standard view and your full screen view. Okay. So we're going to look at a few of these parts on the few of these features of the toolbar in a little bit more detail now. Firstly, we have the teaching tools. These are fairly standard teaching tools that you would find on most interactive whiteboard software. So first of all, you have your drawing tool for drawing and writing, obviously, and a highlighting tool for highlighting parts of the text or pictures that you want to make more evident for your students. What I'd like to talk about for now is the hide, what we call the hide tool. So I'm going to give you an example of the hide tool now. This allows you to hide parts of the screen, and you can also invert the selected area. Okay, so that basically means that if I want to highlight a particular part of the screen. I would first hide it, and then I would use the invert button, which I've highlighted below with the red border. And I can show my students just the part of the picture that I want them to see. Okay, now this, I think, is very, very good for engaging your students at the beginning of the lesson. And it's great for prediction tasks. So what you can do is you can show your students a part of a picture where the context isn't really evident, and you can start asking them some questions. Okay, so I would like you to answer these questions in the chat. My first question is, where is the young man in the photo? Where do you think this young man is? Do you have any ideas where he is? If so, well, he's outside, yeah. At a stadium, at a demonstration, in the street, on a boat, in a competition. So we have a few different answers. So this is really nice. We can start generating a little bit of conversation with our students. So he could be at any of these things, on a campus, at a demonstration, at a sporting event. So what is he doing, do you think? What is he doing? Can you see what he's doing? Shouting, yeah. Cheering, jumping. He has won something, celebrating. Yeah. Okay, so you're on the right lines. So I think that the next question is, let's think, how does he feel? How does this young man feel? Happy, yeah. Excited, involved, excited. He feels great. Yeah. Excited and happy, exactly. So we're starting to engage, identify with this young man's feelings. And final question is, why do you think he feels happy? Why does he feel excited? Because he's won something. He won a race, he won a competition. Yeah, well, let's see. I'll reveal the rest of the picture. And we will see, yes, he's actually won something. And that is why he's so happy. He's holding up his cup. He's obviously won some sort of race. So this is a nice way to introduce the topic, get your students speaking. And as you can see in the chat, it was quite easy. You don't have to use complicated language. You can use adjectives, simple descriptions. So it's a very inclusive activity. And I think it's also a nice activity to raise, to get students to feel empathy, okay? Because they identify with the young man that they can see in the picture. They can relate to how he is feeling. So I think it's a good activity on several different levels as well. So that is the hide tool. So we're going now to look at some of the widgets that we have available. Now, the widgets, as you will see, there are basically three different things. We have a dictionary, a scoreboard, and a timer. Okay. Now, we look at these in a little bit more detail. Now, these are quite simple tools, but I think they can be very, very effective, and we can use them very cleverly if we put our minds to it. I think a timer is useful because we can, it helps us to pace our lessons. We can assign certain amounts of time to each activity. However, I think we should also be very careful. We should use this tool with caution. We don't want to perhaps put students under too much stress, but I would recommend using this as perhaps for a warmer activity where we can give students a certain amount of time to complete a fun activity and without using up too much of our lesson time. Similarly, if we're preparing for a role play or doing preparation of any type, we may want to assign a certain time to our students to do that. And I think as well, for certain types of activities, for example, if we're preparing our students for examinations, it may be a good idea to impose time limits on certain activities, which gets them prepared for exam conditions. Okay. Oh yes, we went from lower order thinking skills to higher order thinking skills. Yes, well spotted, well spotted. Okay, so we have our timer and we have our scoreboard as well. Now I think this can be useful. Scoreboards, gamification, we tend to think of younger students, but I think we can use this with teenagers, adults. Here's an example activity which is taken from a PDF called How to Teach Gold Experience 2nd edition online, which again you can find on the Pearson.com site. I've put the address there. I'm sure that we can share that address with you. So basically what we would do is we can write a suffix on the board, or we can type a suffix into the chat, or we can just simply say the suffix ing, ali, for example. And the first student to write a correct word with that given suffix gets a point. And obviously the winning student is the one with the most points at the end. So this could be another nice idea for a warmer at the beginning of a lesson. Perhaps if you're waiting for students to join, those who are already in the class can start doing this activity. And the final widget I'd like to talk about is the dictionary. And I think this is an excellent tool to have available. Often as English teachers, our students expect us to know the answer to everything. They expect us to be walking dictionaries, and they will say to us, what does this particular word mean? And even if we know the meaning of the word, at times it's very difficult to give them a simple explanation. So this tool can really save our lives at times. Okay, so if a student, for example, asks me, what does the word outcome mean? I can open the dictionary and I can write in the word outcome, and we can see the definition, we can see the pronunciation. We can also see examples of the word being used in context as well, which is very good to help students learn the different meanings and the different ways that the word can be collocated in different contexts. And I think it's also good because we're getting students into the habit of using a dictionary. We're training them to use a dictionary. We're showing them the benefits of using a dictionary as well. So I think this is very, very useful. Another good point to make is about pronunciation. If we notice that students are mispronouncing a certain word, we can type the word into our dictionary and we can listen to the British English pronunciation or the American English pronunciation. We can look at the phonemic spelling, and we can drill these lexical items with our students. So yes, just to do students see the widgets? If the students don't have access to the widgets, but they can see them as you can see them now, if the teacher is sharing with them. The students actually have access to their interactive exercises. They have access to their audio and their video, but they don't actually have direct access to these tools. These are for the teacher. Okay, so that's your dictionary. And now I'm going to move on to the resources. Now, there are a wealth of resources with Gold Experience. As I pointed out at the beginning of the session, I think most of our books, so I mentioned Team Together, I mentioned Roadmap, I mentioned Business Partner, Gold Experience, they all provide access to audio and video, the assessment package, photocopyable activities, things like that. But certain books have specific resources that are specific to that particular book. So this is what we have available for Gold Experience. First of all, we have some very, very nice videos for you, the teachers, the Teaching with Gold Experience videos. So these are short 2 or 3 minute videos that help you explain how to use the various tools, the ones that I'm demonstrating to you today. So if you want to go back and have a refresh on the various tools, you can do. There are a lot of teaching tips, advice on how to use the portal efficiently with your students, teaching ideas, things like that. You also have all of your audio and video available, which you can download or stream in real time. We have some fantastic grammar presentations, which we'll look at in a moment. You have your teacher's book and all of the solutions. Now, this is very useful if you're away from home, if you don't have your teacher's book with you, you can consult it online, so you always have it to hand. We have an expanded word list in phonetics with Gold Experience, photocopyable activities, which aren't so useful in an online environment, but they can be used, they can be adapted, and they're certainly very useful in the face-to-face classroom. There's a comprehensive assessment package, which we'll talk about in a moment. And there's also a lot of excellent information about accessibility and inclusion. So we have some mini guides that are included that can give you some useful advice in these particular areas of teaching. And you also have a downloadable presentation tool. Okay, so if you're teaching in the classroom, or if you're teaching online and you want to save a little bit of bandwidth, you can download the tool to your PC or Mac and use the tool directly from there. Okay, so we'll look now at just 3 of these particular resources. We're going to look at the audio and video scripts, the expanded word list and phonetics, and first of all, the grammar presentations. Now, these grammar presentations are really, really nice, and they are actually self-contained lessons. You will find that each grammar presentation deals with one particular grammar structure. So we have one presentation per unit in the book. All of the slides are animated, so you can gradually introduce information about the form and the function of the structures. And then at the end of the PowerPoint, there's lots of interactive exercises that the students can work upon. So my recommendation would be, if you're working through the book and you feel that your students are having difficulty with a particular structure, you could perhaps introduce a remedial lesson based on one of these PowerPoints. So it's a very nice resource to have. The next resource that I'd like to talk about is the expanded word list. Now, this is an Excel file, and I find that a lot of people who use Gold Experience have overlooked this resource, which I think is a shame. So the expanded word list basically is a list of all of the lexical items in the book, and they're arranged by topic and also by unit as well. And you'll see from the page that we have information, we have a definition, we have pronunciation information, we have information about the part of speech, so is it an adjective, a noun, or a verb. We have examples of the word in context, and we also have the ratings on the global scale of English, so we can see at what granular level of the Common European Framework those words are rated. Okay. So my question to you, and again, I would like you to write any ideas you have in the chat. How could you use this word list? Please write your ideas in the chat. Do you have any ideas? Making the memory game, yeah. Spelling bee, classroom competition, revision tests, writing stories, making sentences. Yeah, lots of ideas. Flashcards, vocabulary competition, bingo game, yeah. Explain the words, yeah, there's lots of different things. Thank you very much. Lots of different things that we can do. These are a few of my ideas. We can create, obviously, personalized vocabulary lists. A lot of English language teaching or language teaching experts recommend that students have or keep vocabulary workbooks or notebooks. And this Excel file, if we share it with our students, it's an instant vocabulary notebook that they can update. They can add their own vocabulary to it. So they can create their own personalized vocabulary lists. They can add their own examples as well to lexical items that are already on the list. With it being an Excel file as well, we can filter words according to the part of speech, as I mentioned. We can filter them according to the topic or the level on the global scale of English. So if we're looking for the higher level words, we can do that. And this is very useful for scaffolding speaking tasks. So for example, if I'm asking my students to describe something, I can scaffold that activity by filtering all of the adjectives, perhaps. So my students have got some vocabulary that they can use to do the task successfully. Having all of the examples as well, it helps learners to contextualize the language and also to recognize the typical collocation, so which words typically occur together in spoken and written English. It's a great tool for revision purposes because obviously students, they can perhaps highlight the words that they're less sure of. So this can be a great revision tool. We can create quizzes as well, I think as somebody mentioned. And it's also useful for pronunciation practice as well. And here's one example of a quiz that I prepared. So what I've done here is I've just filtered out the definitions and the pronunciation in phonemic spelling. So if we want to give our students practice in reading phonemes, we could give them a little quiz like this. So can anybody tell me what the first word is on the list? A room where people change their clothes when they play sports. Changing room, yes. So you're reading your phonemic script very well. Well done. Fantastic. But obviously you could apply this, you could give different definitions, words, you could divide things into parts of speech. There's all sorts of different things that you can do with this. Okay. Another useful resource that we have, which again I think is overlooked by a lot of teachers, is the audio and the video script. So Gold Experience, as well as other books, such as Business Partner, Roadmap, etc., have a rich array of videos included. And you also have the audio scripts and the video scripts, which we can use as effective teaching tools. So again, a quick question for you. How could we use these video scripts, do you think? Do you have any ideas? For prediction, yeah. For follow-up writings, yeah. Warming up activities. Pronunciation, discussion, role play. Yeah, there's all sorts of things that we can do. And there are all sorts of tasks that we can do before the activity, during the activity, and after the activity as well. So thank you again for your ideas. Again, I'll share some of my ideas. I think the most obvious thing is for the teacher to pre-teach vocabulary. You can look through the audio script before you begin the activity, and you can identify any words that you think may cause problems for your students and pre-teach them. You could perhaps create gap fill worksheets as well, which can be a useful activity for students to do during while they're watching the video. Okay, so we ask them to fill in the gaps as they're listening. In a classroom situation, we could also photocopy the audio scripts and perhaps cut them up to make a jumbled text. And we ask the students to rearrange the paragraphs and put them in the correct order. This is another type of prediction task. And another while watching task would be who said that? We provide the learners with a list of words and phrases from the video script, and they have to write down or make a note of who says that particular word or phrase. Okay, so it gives them something precise to focus on as they're watching the video. Okay, so as you've mentioned as well, there's lots of other different things that we can do. Yeah, they can act out the dialogues as well, so which is useful for building confidence, improving the pronunciation, true false tasks. Yeah, lots of very good ideas here. Okay, so moving on. We've looked at some of the resources, we've looked at the widgets. I'd like to talk for a minute about the online practice, virtual classes, and the gradebook. So the portal gives you the opportunity to set up classes with your virtual students, or your real students for that matter. So you set up a virtual class. This is a class that I've set up for a small group using Gold Experience B1, which is obviously what we're discussing today. And what I can do is I can assign homework activities. We can assign the homework activities to individual students or to the whole class, which I think is very, very useful. So basically, I select the activities that I want to assign. I check the boxes, and then I can decide who I want to assign those activities to. So once I've assigned those activities and my students start to complete the activities, I can actually monitor the class performance as well. As you can see, my class at the moment has scored an average of 80%, which is quite good. We can see that they've been focusing basically on grammar and on vocabulary. So with grammar, they're doing pretty well, but with vocabulary, not so good. So perhaps I have to give them some more vocabulary exercises for them to improve in that particular department. I can also monitor individual performance as well, and I think this is very important. We can see detailed information for each learner, so we can see which students are doing well, which students are doing not so well, and more importantly, we can see where they're not doing well. Perhaps one student is doing really well with listening, but not so well with grammar, or vice versa. And that allows us to assign particular remedial exercises to that particular student, which allows us to be very, very inclusive. In other words, it allows us to inform our teaching, okay? So this is an example of the gradebook for one particular student who, as we can see, has an overall average score of 60%. This student is doing really well with his or her grammar, 94%, but the vocabulary only 37%. So obviously, I know that I have to help this student more with vocabulary and concentrate perhaps a little bit less on the grammar. Okay. So what's new? What is new? Well, there are a couple of new things that I'd like to talk to you about, which I mentioned at the beginning. The first thing is the new test generator. I mentioned that each book has an assessment package, which allows us to assign tests to our students. Now, we can also dip into these individual tests and construct a custom-made test. So we can choose various test items from different tests and put them together. Okay? So, for example, here, I've selected a couple of grammar exercises that I want to include in my test. And I can scroll through my list of test items and pick and choose exactly what I need. Now, what is really good about this, I think, is that it allows you can change the order of the test items, and you can randomize the order as well. Now, this, I think, is a great tool to help if you're having problems with perhaps students copying, or if they're doing tests at home that they're sending messages to their friends and saying, oh, what's the answer to number 1? Well, if every student has got a randomized test, every student will have a different item at number 1. So this will make copying a little bit more difficult, and it will probably give you a more informed view of how that particular student is doing. Another thing that you can do is you can set the start and the end times for your test. So you could arrange for the test to take place, say, as I've done here, on the 11th of November, which was yesterday, at midday until 1 p.m. Okay, so the students have to do the test within that range of time, which again will make things a little bit more difficult for them if to prevent them from copying. Okay, so that is the test generator. So just to summarize what that does, you can create the test you want from the assessment package that is available with your course. You pick and choose the activities that you need for your particular class. So it's a customized test. You can choose which students answer which questions, or you can randomize the questions to make sure that students don't receive the same test as well. You can assign the test online to your students, which I think most of us will be doing in this period. Or in the classroom, you can create PDF versions to print off, and you can mark them yourself. I think that the PDF versions still have to be added to the portal, but they're certainly on the way. So that may be a useful tool for those of you who are in the classroom at the moment. Another new thing that we've introduced, another new feature, is virtual lessons with Zoom. From within the portal, you can connect your Pearson English Portal account to your Zoom account, and that allows you to schedule your lessons from within the portal, obviously, and you can share the schedule with your students. So if I click on the Zoom lesson button, a menu opens, and I can schedule the date and the time of the lesson. I can provide my students with notes, and I can construct a calendar of lessons. Okay. So just to summarize that with the virtual lessons, it's very, very easy to use. You set up the classes and groups with the class management tools. Okay, so this is what I showed you in the online homework section. So you need to create a virtual class. And once you've done that, you can organize your Zoom lessons with those particular students. You can create a calendar of scheduled events, of scheduled classes, which appear in your students' notifications, so they'll never miss a class, at least we hope. You can use Zoom, obviously, straight from the portal. And because it's integrated, you can switch easily between showing the presentation tool on your screen and other resources you want to share as well. So you don't have to be logged into lots of different platforms at the same time. I've just seen a question, my school doesn't allow Zoom. Well, Zoom is integrated at the moment. You can still use the portal with Google Meet, with Teams. If you can share your screen with your platform, then you can share the content of the portal, so that shouldn't be a problem. Okay. So, as I mentioned at the beginning, we don't really have a great deal of time in 50, 55 minutes to talk about everything. But if you want to find out more, or if you're already using the portal and you want to learn more, we have a fantastic help page. If you log in to the portal, or you go to the portal page, which, if you remember, is english.com/portal. And you'll see that there's a Get Help and Training Materials button that you can click. And that opens a fantastic page, Portal Help and Training. Now, this is full of downloadable PDF guides. It explains all of the different parts of the portal. So how you set up your Zoom meetings, how to use the presentation tool, how you can set up virtual classes. There are video tutorials as well. So there are lots and lots of things, okay, that you can find out about there. So I really recommend that you go in to find out more information. Yeah, the portal site is english.com/portal, okay? But if you Google Pearson English Portal, it will be the first site that you find, okay? So some final considerations, and hopefully we'll have a few minutes for questions. Since the current situation, the current pandemic began, a lot of blogs and a lot of articles have appeared which offer best practice for teaching online. And there are some really excellent resources out there. And I've chosen 3, which I think are particularly important. So I hope you find this useful. So these are my favorite 3 tips for teaching English online. I think the first thing is that we have to learn how to use our digital resources and practice using them. This is very, very important. If we're spending a lot of time fiddling about and not finding links and clicking on the wrong buttons, our students will get bored very, very quickly. So we have to learn how to do things like activate the audio, how to share our screen, how to zoom in and out quickly, how to select tools. So I think it's a good idea to practice doing this before you start teaching your students. Perhaps you have a friend, a teacher, or not necessarily a teacher, who would be willing to set up a Zoom call or a Meet call with you, and you can practice using these tools. I think this is vital. Practice makes perfect, indeed, yeah. My second tip is plan carefully. As teachers, we know the importance of planning. It's vital, and I think it's even more vital when we're online. So when you're planning your lessons, I think we have to think about, when do I have to activate the audio? You have to have perhaps your video files ready. If you're sharing an image, have that ready, and try and close all unnecessary screens and programs. So you have as few variables as possible, should we say. Okay, so you're ready to go as soon as your lesson starts. And I think the third thing to remember as well is to let your students know what is expected of them, to establish some routines with your students as well. So when you're starting a new course with a group of students for the first time, perhaps to establish some ground rules with them. Okay, so what is expected of them in terms of their behavior? Do they keep their microphones switched on or switched off? When do they switch their microphones on? Do they keep their webcams on or off? Different in different schools, in different contexts, there are different rules. Okay, so we have to establish these with our students. How do they use the chat box? When do they use the chat box? In certain platforms such as Zoom, you have annotation tools. You need to show them how to use the annotation tools. And I think it's important to have thumbs up, routines such as a thumbs up, which we establish at the beginning. So often in online calls, we're saying, can you hear me? Can you hear me? And if we establish a routine where all our students go like that, we know immediately that they can hear us. Okay, so those are my basic 3 tips. And hopefully now we have a couple of minutes for questions. If there are any questions, I saw that a lot of questions were coming in the chat, but it's very difficult to see the various questions as they're appearing. So if there are any questions, Charlie is still there. Yes, is the portal really free? I think this very much depends on where you're based. I'm based in Italy, and certainly for teachers, if you have students that are using a Pearson book with a portal, your local representative will give you access to the portal resources for that particular book. Hi,
Roy. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Brilliant. Okay, there's something wrong with my microphone. So yeah, I've managed to gather a couple of questions.
Yes.
You've actually just answered 2 of them, being that you can get access to the portal if you have a Pearson product that's supported by it, and to do that, you need to get an access code from your local rep. Was that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So, and to find out who your local rep is, go to english.com and navigate through the calendar, or follow the URL that I've pinned at the top of the chat box now to find out more information about the portal, and again, to find your local rep. Brilliant, thank you. So there's a few others here. Are the audio recordings for tests from Teachers Resources book, Teachers Resources books available on the portal, in particular for Gold Experience? So
yes,
are the audio recordings stored on portal?
Yeah, so basically it depends on the book. Different books have different resources, obviously, but you'll find that every book has all of the audio for the teacher on the portal. The students will have access to the course book audio and the workbook audio. They won't have access to the test audio. That will just be given to the teacher. But yes, teachers will have access to all the audio.
Okay, I'm going to try and squeeze in 2 more.
Yeah.
The first one I hope is a bit of a quick one. What do we offer in the form of training and staff development, professional development, and using the portal? Can we find other videos on YouTube, or is it on the site, or is it a local team manage the training?
I think more personalized training. Certainly in Italy, we offered localized training, and people can contact their local rep, and we can try and arrange to set things up. But if I understand correctly, Charlie, for this current series of webinars, there are different webinars, such as the one that Michael Brand presented yesterday. I think it's called Flying Colours, where he also touches on online using the portal online. And on the help page that I mentioned before as well, there are a lot of tutorial videos, which are very useful.
Okay, so that is the first portal call will be going to the website and finding the tutorial videos. After that, it's looking at other Pearson resources online around using the portal. And after that, it's getting in touch with your local reps to see what local training they can provide.
Yeah. Brilliant. Again, I think every country is different. Every country has different setups, so I think you need to contact.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. No, understood. And there's one more which is quite important, so I'd like to squeeze it in, and a few people have asked about it, and it's around students with special needs. So is there any part of the portal that's designed to be used by, for example, dyslexic children, or are there courses that use the portal which are specific for children with special needs?
Off the top of my head, there's the accessibility section in the portal, which it contains mini guides on dealing with dyslexia, for example. So it provides resources for teachers, certainly. I think things like audio scripts that we mentioned before can be used as a tool with students. as well. For now, as far as I know, there isn't a specific dyslexia-friendly tool, should I say, for teachers, but there are strategies that we can use using the tools within the portal. Certainly, yes.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, I'm glad we managed to squeeze that in. I'm afraid we are at time now. We've got to run off and get the next webinar going. So, Roy,
fantastic.
Once again, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Charlie, for moderating. Thanks, everybody. It was fantastic speaking with so many people from all over the world. Great experience for me. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.
Brilliant. I'm sure they did. Thank you to all of you for taking the time out of your day to attend. Certificates will be on their way and a recording will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, the Pearson English YouTube channel. Thank you all and see you at the next webinar. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.